Hi, my name is Shelby Richardson, and I'll be reading Kitty and Mack a love story. Eddie McCormick was all world, everybody knew it. While most of the guys on the block played basketball, Mack, which was what everybody called him, played baseball. He played left field for the Ralph Boucher Academy, and when they played, there would be more scouts and stands than fans. He was a big 880 pounds and 6'1". During the winter, he ran track, and the track coach thought he could make the Olympics if he stuck with sprinting. The coach kept him on the team even when he wasn't running, just in case he might show up at a meet. But baseball was Mack's joy, and that was where he figured to be headed. He was 18, and one newspaper article about him said that he could be in the major leagues by the time he was 19. That's how good he was. Naturally, the baseball coach loved him. That was the thing about Mack. The people who liked him usually liked him because he was a star. Mack had an attitude problem. He thought he could just show up and everybody was supposed to fall down and go crazy or something. He was pretty smart too, but he made this big show of not caring about grades. He slid into his senior year with a C-minus average. If they gave him what he really deserved, Dottie Lynch said he would be getting all P's. That's P as in pitiful. Well, Dottie had a big mouth, but that's what people thought about Mac. Some of the kids thought that Dottie was sweating Mac, and was just Mac because he didn't give her play. On the other hand, everybody thought he was stuck on himself, but during the first week of his senior year, everything changed. That's when he met Kitty. Kitty was the granddaughter of Duke Wilson, who owned the barber shop on 145th across from Grace Tabernacle Church. Now, anybody who knew Mr. Wilson would expect his granddaughter to be smart, but Kitty was outrageous. Just the way that Mac dealt with baseball and had all the scouts looking at him. Kitty could deal with the books. What's more, everybody liked Kitty because she had one of those bubbling kind of personalities that as soon as you met her, you knew she was your flavor. Plus, the girl was fine, not just kind of fine, not just take another look fine, but like take the bags out the smoke alarms when she came by fine. Yeah, that's right. So she's smart, she's fine. She only 16 and a senior. Okay, the first week of school, Miss Henry, our English teacher said you had to write poems in the style of some famous poet, and you had to write the poem to a particular person. It could be someone you admire, Miss Henry said, someone you're in love with, or even someone to whom you just want to send a message. The boys all treated the assignment like it was a big group, and most of the girls weren't too excited about it either. On the day the poems were read in class, it was mostly funny stuff or poems about how they loved their mothers. 3 people wrote poems about Martin Luther King Jr. Half the class just listened to the poems and hoped they wouldn't be called on to read theirs out loud. But when it was time for Kitty to read her poem, she said, I'm going to read my poem to Mac. Pause and answer questions one. Everybody paid attention. Mac leaned back in his seat and got this look on his face like he was too cool to breathe. Okay, Kitty went on and stood right in front of Mac and started reciting her poem real slow. She was just glancing at the paper it was written on, but most of the time she was looking dead into Mac's eyes. How do I love thee, sweet black thing? Why do I love thee? This song that my wildly beating heart has chanced, upon has my light and joy soul danced. With yours is some other life for taking wing, and flow with yours, you sweet black thing. The class was quiet, and Miss Henry put her book down and sat behind her desk. Kitty went on with her poem. How do I love thee, my sweet black prince? For surely I've loved thee ever. My eyes first met your fierce but tender gaze, and your gentle touch did expand my days. As poet's songs fulfill the single verse, and sweet love fulfills the universe. I haven't finished it yet, Kitty said. It's going to be a sonnet. She hadn't finished the sonnet, but she had finished Mac. From that moment on, he was stupid in love. What she did was to flat out change the brother. She had reached aside him and took out his attitude. Pee Wee put it best. What Mac was doing was dealing wrong, but dealing so strong you couldn't do it. Nothing about it, he said. But how strong can you be when some girl can make you roll over and play dead anytime she wants to? She can make that dude fetch like a cocker spaniel if she wanted. That was true because Mac would be in the cafeteria or walking down the hallway, and all of a sudden this silly grin would come over his face, and either Kitty would be someplace near or he would be thinking about her. Mac was so much in love that it made people feel good just to be around him. He was talking about going right to the major leagues and playing pro ball while Kitty went to school. They went out steady for a while, and after a few weeks, Kitty naturally wanted to know how Mac felt about her. She hinted around for a while, then she came right out and asked him. You okay, he said. Don't give me no okay. You're okay, he said. Don't give me no okay, Kitty said. I want to know if you love me. Something like that, Mac said. That's what he said to Kitty, but to everybody else, he was planning his whole life. It'll take her 6 or 7 years to get her law degree, he said. Then I'll play ball for another 8 or 9 years, and then we'll open a little business. Now, to answer 3 and 4. Kitty lived with her parents above her grandfather's shop. That's where Mac was coming from the day before Christmas. Kitty had been up at Brown University in Rhode Island on a visit to see if she wanted to go to that school, and Mac had met her at the train station. It was a cold night and light snow was falling. Down on the corner, some guys were selling Christmas trees and had started firing a garbage can to keep warm. All of a sudden, two guys come running down the street. They were hoofing heavy and looking back over their shoulders. When they ran across Powell Avenue, they almost got hit by a gypsy cat. The cat swerved just in time, and one brother was slipping on the snow and almost closed the path of a delivery truck. He was so close to being hit that he was steadying himself on the fender of the truck. The car that came across the intersection was an old Mustang painted black. The two guys were running on the uptown side of the street, but the Mustang came over, facing the wrong way in traffic, and they leaned out the back window. Drive by, kids screamed. People were hitting the ground or running or ducking behind cars. Most of them didn't know where the shooting was coming from. A window broke, sending glass across the sidewalk. People screamed, tires squealed. The two guys that they were shooting at turned the corner and ran up the avenue. The car sped away toward the bridge that leads to the Bronx. In a minute, it was out of sight. That's a shame, an old West Indian woman was saying. Those gang people don't care 2 cents. The car sped away toward the bridge that leads to the Bronx. In a minute, it was out of sight. That's a shame, my old West Indian woman was saying. Those gang people don't care 2 cents for your life, the woman with her said. The day before Christmas, too, the first woman went on shaking her head. They don't have a thing to do but to. Is that somebody laying on the ground over there? It was Mack. A man called the police in minutes. The street was full of police cars and emergency vehicles. He was moving along, carrying one with a scarf around his face, said, "He's okay." They took Mack downtown to Harlem Hospital. Pookie, who came along after the shooting, saw that it was Mack, went and told his folks. It was Christmas Day when the news got back to the block. Mack was going to live, but two bullets had torn to his right ankle and just about taken his foot off. Doctors had worked on his foot for 7 hours, and finally they gave up. It had to be amputated. When he came out of the hospital, Mac was different. It wasn't like he just acted a little strange. He was a different person. At first, when some of the guys went around to see him, they said he didn't talk much. But then after a while, he wouldn't even come out of his room. Then Pee Wee found that he hadn't seen Kitty. She didn't even go to the hospital. Eddie, who was in Mac's math class, asked. She went to the hospital, Pee Wee said, but since he's at home, he hasn't seen her. He told his mother not to let her in. She won't answer the phone. You can't turn your back on people like that, Eddie answered. But the truth was that Mac could turn his back on people because he really had to turn his back on himself. Kitty called me every day at the same time so he would know it was her, but he wouldn't answer. Please pause this and answer 5 and 6. Mac's father worked in a restaurant just down from Sylvia's. It wasn't as high class as a restaurant as Sylvia's, but it was nice. He went to work at 1 in the afternoon and Mac would keep his door closed, not even come out of his room till after his father had left. The next thing that Kitty did was to organize a little get together with Pee Wee and some of the guys on the baseball team. Pee Wee told me about it, and for the first time he didn't make a lot of jokes about it. He was sitting on his bed and he had his leg out from under. Pee Wee said, we just sat there and tried not to look at his leg. Matt kept laughing at his leg and pointed to it. Man, it was terrible. Dottie was there and she held Kitty's hand. She was 12, Dottie said. You loving somebody like she loves that fool. You hate to see them looking so pitiful. Nobody else could get up to say anything, Pee Wee continued. I know those guys aren't going back there. That scene was too rough. No one saw Mac for a long time after that. There were reports that he had lost a lot of weight and that maybe he was losing his mind. The worst time was when Mac's father called the cops because he couldn't come down from the roof. It was nearly 3 o'clock in the morning in late January. A cold rain slanted down onto the tar paper and onto a long figure sitting on a ledge overlooking the empty street below. A policeman tried to talk to him away from the edge, but Mac didn't respond. Why, son, why? His father pleaded with him. You're young, and you still got your whole thing going on in front of you. I know it's not like it was, but you're still young. Who? Max spoke without moving. At first, his father just looked at him, not knowing what son was getting at. What you mean, who? His father asked. Who are you talking to? I'm talking to you, son, his father said. I'm not your son, Max said. Your son was a ball player, wasn't he? He didn't have no missing parts, did he? You're hurt, bud. His father's voice trailed off. The pain sat between them, even as the rain beat down harder, releasing the stench of dog urine from the cracks into the roof. The policeman told Max's parents that they could either try to pull him down or leave and see if he could be talked down. Max's father said he'd stay with him and try to talk him down. It was almost done when Max, shaking with cold and the rage of frustration, finally got up and walked to the stairwell. Kitty was sitting on the stairs, a blanket around her shoulders. Max stopped for a moment and Kitty took his hand. It was trembling as she put it against her face. Without speaking, he pulled it away and leaning against the sagging banister went down the stairs. He's not going to last, Kitty's grandfather said later. The boy has lost his will to live. Pause this video and answer questions 7 and 8. The first week of February was as cold as it could be in the city without completely freezing over. There was a heavy snow on the weekend that blanketed the block in a crisp white silence. Neon signs that seemed good humor and inviting during warm weather turned cool and distant. Old men and women walked carefully along the slick. Younger people leaned into the wind that swirled along the edges of the buildings. In the mornings, there were flurries of young mothers taking their bundle to the. Can I sit in here to record something because it's quiet in here? Okay. In the mornings, there were flurries of young mothers taking their bundle children to old mothers who would care for them during the day. Pictures of Mack had grown fewer and fewer until the morning king showed up at 9 o'clock at Duke's barbershop. Why aren't you at school, Duke asked. I decided to stay home from now on and take care of Mack, he said. That's kind of rough, isn't it, Duke said. You know how important school is. Not that rough, Kitty said. I can handle it. When things get right, I'll go back. Kitty, Duke, he led her by the hand and led her to one of the barber chairs. He sat her down, took both her hands in his. Honey, life goes on even when some of us decide to stop and rest along the way. Max young, but he's a man, and he's made a decision about his life. If he doesn't want help, you can't give it to him. Then why am I going to school? Kitty asked. Why can't I study that? Why can't I study that's so important that I'm supposed to lead people who need me? Girl, you're smart enough to know everything your grandfather is going to say. You said. I'll call his dad and see if he'll let you come up and see him. From what I heard, he's not in or anything, but if he wants to see you, I think you should go on back to school. I'm not going to see him, can you answer? I'm just going to let him know I'm here to take care of him. You what? Dick sat down in the other chair. The door opened and Dick told the customer that he was closed. Of course, everybody in the block still knew that Katie was staying home from school. After all the talk about how smart she was, there was a lot of surprises. Some people were saying that maybe she wasn't as smart as people thought. You don't give up on your education from some guy who won't even talk to you, Preacher said. And she didn't go up to his house or nothing. She just put a letter in the window of Duke's place saying that she was going to be there and waiting for Matt to come see her. The letter was printed on big cardboard. It wasn't anything fancy either. Mac, I'm home from school. I'm here at Duke's barbershop every day and I'm waiting for you to tell you how much I love you, Kitty. Stop, pause the video and answer questions 9 and 10. Now read the rest of what I left off of. Finish.